The opening scene features a middle-class girl named Sayaka Kono, who believes that life is never fair. She considers herself to be the unluckiest person in the world because her life is monotonous due to lack of friends and family. It appears that her father passed away, whereas her mother has remarried and is now living happily with her new family. Sayaka is a real estate agent by profession, but she always messes up at work due to her carelessness. At home, she relies mostly on fast food because she is not a good cook. One night, Sayaka dreams of returning home and coming across a man who has collapsed outside her apartment. She approaches him and inquires about his health. The man asks her to let him into her home and provide him with some food because he is hungry. Despite it being just a dream, Sayaka is over the moon to meet the man. The next morning, Sayaka wakes up and surprisingly finds the same guy cooking in her kitchen. She is taken aback when she realizes that what she witnessed last night was not a dream. The man gently greets her and begins preparing breakfast for her. Sayaka is ecstatic and a little bit emotional because she hasn't had homemade food in a long time. She remembers her mother's cooking and finds the food delicious. As the days pass, Sayaka enjoys spending time with the man, so she insists that he stay at her apartment for as long as he wants. Following this, the man introduces himself as Itsuki, but declines to share his family name, claiming he is not on good terms with them. Sayaka is not bothered about it, and as a result, their unusual living arrangement begins, and Sayaka's dull life gradually transforms into one that is more colorful and happy. With time, Sayaka discovers that Itsuki is not only an excellent cook, but he is also passionate about plants and is aware of the names of various plants in her garden. One morning, while they are tending to the garden, Itsuki asks Sayaka for permission to stay in her house for 6 months, to which she agrees. She realizes that her birthday is exactly 6 months away, which is on August 15th. Following this, Itsuki prepares a delectable lunch for her. As the days go by, Sayaka's life starts to change. Despite the fact that they are only housemates, their bond grows stronger. Eventually, Itsuki also gets a job at a convenience store where he chooses to work the night shift so he can prepare Sayaka's lunch before she leaves for work in the morning. One day at work, Sayaka is reprimanded by her boss after she is unable to deal with an arrogant client. As a result, she returns home with a sad expression on her face, but on the way back, Itsuki joins her and helps her cheer up. He also gives her a bath salt as a gift, which she appreciates. A month later, Itsuki uses his first paycheck to buy a set of bicycles for both of them. They then go on a scenic ride and stop at some interesting locations. Sayaka notices Itsuki's high-end and expensive belongings, but she does not probe into his personal life. Itsuki also doesn't reveal much about himself. Later, Sayaka discovers his passion for wild herbs and photography. Itsuki can transform any dish into a masterpiece by adding the wild herbs to the dishes. At work, Sayaka's co-worker Takazawa appears to have a crush on her. He constantly tries to get close to her, but Sayaka is not interested. One day, Takazawa takes Sayaka's food without her permission. When she finds out about this, she storms out, furious. But as soon as Itsuki comes to her mind, Sayaka's expression quickly changes. Over time, the two housemates become more at ease with each other. They frequently go on rides in order to collect wild herbs and spend more time together. One fine day, they cycle to a garden full of beautiful flowers. Itsuki takes numerous pictures of the flowers and tells Sayaka various facts about them. He then designs a flower crown for Sayaka and photographs her, making her very happy. As the two return home, she wishes for this happiness to last forever. The following day at work, Sayaka guides the same arrogant client to one of their apartments, but he harasses her by insisting she have dinner with him. Sayaka boldly declines his advances, but the client complains to her boss about how disrespectful she was to him. When the boss questions her about it, Sayaka stands up for herself, knowing that she did nothing wrong and that the client had slandered her. After work, she visits a bookstore to buy a book about wild herbs, hoping that it will help her expand her knowledge about wild plants. On their next outing, Itsuki takes Sayaka to a picturesque riverside where they begin exploring the wild herbs. While they are at it, Sayaka stumbles on some rocks and falls, so Itsuki rushes to her assistance. He then hands her his handkerchief in order to keep her from getting a cold. Just then, Sayaka sees that the handkerchief is also a costly high-end brand. Curious, she finally inquires about the pricey items, and Itsuki replies that he obtained them from one of his friends at work. However, Sayaka is skeptical at this time. In the next scene, she follows Itsuki to his workplace where she finds him conversing comfortably with a lady. When Itsuki spots Sayaka, he rushes out of the store and goes after her to explain the situation and dispel their misunderstanding. After much effort, he somehow manages to convince her to head back home carefully. However, Sayaka seems to be envious of Itsuki's work colleague. The next evening, she spends time with her colleagues before returning home with Takezawa. As he has feelings for her, he makes up stories to extend their walk together. While walking along the way, Sayaka discovers Itsuki waiting for her. He inquires about Takezawa and does not seem to be happy to meet him. When the housemates reach home, they get into an argument, and during this, Sayaka unintentionally confesses her feelings for Itsuki. The latter is speechless for a while, but then he also reveals his feelings for Sayaka. As a result, they end up kissing each other and become new lovers. One day, Sayaka receives 2 tickets to a flower exhibition hosted by a well-known Ikebana artist named Ryumi Tome. She then invites Itsuki to accompany her to the exhibition, assuming that he will enjoy it. However, Itsuki politely declines her, stating that he only enjoys wild plants in their natural habitat. 6 months pass by and it's Sayaka's birthday. Much to her surprise, Itsuki prepares a birthday cake for her all by himself. He also gives her a book about wild herbs as a present. After experiencing all of this, Sayaka is ecstatic to be spending her birthday with Itsuki. However, her happiness does not last long. The next day, when she returns home from work, she finds a paper note from Itsuki, expressing his gratitude and also a goodbye. Sayaka becomes upset and goes in search of Itsuki. She heads to his workplace, but the employee informs her that Itsuki had already quit the job. In addition, Sayaka learns that the lady with whom Itsuki used to talk to has also left her job. After all her attempts to find Itsuki fail, Sayuka returns home in distress and sobs in pain, realizing she is once again alone. Her life goes back to being dull, monotonous, and devoid of color. She resorts to eating fast food again, as she is unable to cook delicious food. One day, on her way back from work, Sayaka notices the same lady who worked with Itsuki. Wasting no time, she starts trailing the lady, hoping to locate Itsuki. Unfortunately, the lady notices her pursuit and calls the cops on Sayaka, accusing her of stalking. When interrogated by a police officer, Sayaka breaks down in tears and confides in him about her predicament. She also expresses her longing to find her love at any cost. A few moments later, Sayaka's mother comes to the police station to pick her up. Upon returning home, she expresses her worry about Sayaka having been alone for years. However, the latter assures her that she is now an adult and is capable of taking care of herself. The mom-daughter duo then have a heart-to-heart conversation, after which Sayaka decides to move on and accept the fact that Itsuki will never come back. From that day onward, Sayaka starts spending more time with Takezawa. Despite this, she still holds feelings for Itsuki. One day over lunch, Takezawa asks her out on a date and proposes to her, but she declines, claiming she already has someone she likes. In an effort to move on, Sayaka starts doing things that she used to enjoy with Itsuki, such as going on bike rides and collecting wild plants. She even starts cooking wild herbs the way Itsuki taught her. With time, Sayaka learns to be content and happy on her own. But in spite of moving on, she still misses Itsuki and yearns to see him again. A year goes by, and on her birthday, Sayaka receives a package from Itsuki containing a book about wild herbs. She realizes that the book is Itsuki's work and searches for the address that is printed on it. Soon, she learns that Itsuki will be holding a press conference in front of an audience to announce his new book. She also locates the address, which happens to be a hotel in Tokyo. In the next scene, Sayaka rushes to the hotel hoping to meet the love of her life. There, she finally sees Itsuki, who is delivering a speech in front of a large crowd. Here it is finally revealed that Itsuki is not a homeless guy after all. He is, in fact, the son of the famous Ikebana artist, Ryumi Tome. During his speech, Itsuki explains that his family expected him to follow in his father's footsteps, but he wasn't interested. As a result, he decided to stay away from home. He then began researching various wild herbs that piqued his interest, eventually publishing a successful book on the subject. Meanwhile, Sayaka abruptly leaves in the middle of his speech. She returns feeling that the difference in the family background will never let them be together. Nevertheless, she still yearns for their experience of going to fun places, exploring wild herbs, and eating deliciously cooked food by Itsuki. After a while, she returns home, only to find Itsuki standing at her doorstep just as he had a year and a half before. He then takes her to a garden and explains why he left her. Moments later, Itsuke learns that Sayaka had attended the speech at the conference, but did not stay until the end. So, he repeats the portion of the speech where he spoke about Sayaka's importance in his life. He claims to have found half of his lost soul in her. He also realized that he needed to find the other half, so he chose to depart from her. According to Itsuke, after discovering his own life path and the other half of his soul, he decided to return to Sayaka, who he believes is his true soulmate. Finally, he expresses his feelings for Sayaka and proposes marriage to her. Sayaka forgets about everything and happily agrees to his proposal. The two then embrace each other with affection. And eventually, after a few days, they happily get married. After the marriage, Sayaka keeps her job as a real estate agent, while Itsuke pursues his passion as a photographer of wild herbs. They make each other's lives better and live happily ever after.